This meeting of the Board of Education for August 20th, 2012 is called to order. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone present and to our television viewers. All items that will be voted on this evening have been posted as required by state law. This meeting has been televised live and will be replayed throughout the next 2 weeks. Please check the board website for replay times. I can safely say that we as board members, as our families in our district and students, are all very happy to once again be in partnership with the City of Portland and TriMet in offering a free education pass on TriMet for all high school students and designated education options department programs in Portland Public Schools. We have our partners present tonight, and I would like to invite Major Sam Adams and TriMet General Manager Neil McFarland to the testimony table to say a few words. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would just like to say thank you for partnerships. We've had a long-running partnership with the City of Portland and the Portland Public Schools, and we're very happy to continue that this year. I would not be, I don't want to be disingenuous to say that there weren't some hard decisions associated with this. As you very well know, TriMet is a regional agency. We have a regional constituency. And there's this sort of suspicion out there about Portland and Portland Public Schools. But one of the things that I think it would be very helpful if you helped as school board members and as school professionals to begin to tell the story about the benefits of this program, that it builds transit ridership for the future, that it provides multiple benefits. It doesn't just get kids to school. It gets our students around the region to their jobs, to other locations, and it's an integral part of your educational program. You've had no greater advocate than that than, frankly, my son's 5th grade teacher, who I won't pass on her name because she's a very fluent lobbyist. But I do want to note that if we could all work together to describe the benefits of this program regionally, I think it would be very helpful in all of the educational forums that you talk about. Because you have a very strong transit system, you're able to take advantage of this program, and we can do it with environmental benefits and greater benefits to the students. So that I'm very, very pleased to be here in support of this overall program, and we're very pleased to be recommending your support of this as well.
Well, Mr. Chair and members of the board, and to Mr. Director, I too am very pleased to be here, and I want to thank Director McFarland for his work and along with your leadership in bringing this forward. This is a not as well understood among average Portlanders how important this is to improving academic achievement in our city, both the ability to allow students to go to different campuses for a variety of various instructions, getting the strength from where it is around the city in Portland Public Schools, but also before and after school programs, both on campus, but also before and after school work, career experience, education experience as well. It's I think a key part of support for the work that you're doing and succeeding at in terms of improving the high school graduation rate and academic achievement across the board. So again, I thank Director McFarland and thank all of you. I'm very glad to be part of this collaboration. And one last thing, I also hope that you'll have a unanimous vote for the bond measure, the facilities bond measure. I think what you have before you is incredibly forward-thinking, very exciting, a smart investment. It's what we need. So I'm glad to be here with Director McFarland to laud our collaboration on the TriMet Youth Passes and also to encourage you to vote for the bond measure.
Again, thank you both for your leadership, and thank you TriMet and the City of Portland for your willingness and for your work, with our district in making this important service possible. I don't know if my colleagues want to say any more.
Just thank you. Thank you
I was
very
just going to
much.
say that there's that old saying that it takes a village, and I think this is a perfect example of our village coming together to support our kids, and hugely appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
We will now consider Resolution 4639, authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with TriMet and City of Portland to continue supporting and approving a fairless public transportation student pass program for all high school and education option students in Portland Public Schools. Programs for the period of September 1 to June 20th, 2013. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
Director Sargent moves and Director Knowles seconds the motion to adopt Resolution 4639. Ms. Houston, is there any citizen comment on Resolution 4639?
No.
Is there any board discussion on the resolution? No? The board will now vote on Resolution 4639. I'm sorry. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Resolution 4639 is approved by a vote of 7-0, with Student Representative Garcia voting.
Yes.
Thank you. So we'll now move on to hear about a memorandum of understanding with Concordia, and Superintendent Smith would introduce this item.
And I'll ask Bob Alexander, our Director of Facilities, to come on up and describe the memo of understanding, and Gary Withers from Concordia University. And I will just say, so there was much conversation with the board previously about both our programmatic partnership with Concordia and Fabian Pre-K 8, and now our capital program memo of understanding, which will be introduced to you tonight. But the board directed us to go forward and develop this memo, and Bob and Gary, take it away.
Thank you. I am Bob Alexander, Director of Planning and Asset Management, and it is my pleasure to introduce Gary Withers, who's the Executive Vice President of Concordia. As you know, Concordia and Portland Public Schools have had a long-standing relationship which has been mutually beneficial. A few highlights include that Fabian students have had benefit of tutoring in the classroom and on the athletic field from Concordia students. We're able to dedicate their community service and furtherance of the education and provide hands-on learning experience through Concordia's Student Service Corps, particularly the Teacher Corps and the athletic programs. Concordia student volunteers have also worked in the SUN program, the Smart Reading program, and in areas related to art curriculum, health, and safety. We've also jointly utilized facilities. Concordia has used our sports fields in exchange for maintenance and upkeep during construction of their own athletic facilities. Concordia has also completed a new library, which has been open to Fabian students and parents and to community members, providing a unique access to quality educational materials for our students. In furtherance of this cooperative effort, and recognizing that there's a great deal of potential for further synergy, we were directed by the board to enter into a memorandum of understanding for the joint development of a new Fabian Pre-K-8 school as part of the district proposed capital building program. The Fabian school site at 3039 Rosa Parks Way is about 7.8 acres, adjacent to Concordia University's 13-acre campus, as shown on the attached map that you have in your books. Fabian is a Title I school with nearly 80% of our Fabian students qualifying for free or reduced lunch. A new Fabian school could provide wraparound services, including a health clinic, family resource center, early childhood education opportunities, and support of students and their families, fostering greater student success. The potential for this collaborative effort is the creation of a model modern learning environment that is the center of the community. The district adopted a long-range facility plan that identifies the development of partnerships as a guiding principle, including the pursuit of partnerships with private entities that leverage public resources to maximize efficiency, provide economies of scale, and drive innovation. The MOU's scope will include the following. First, master planning and programming of the Fabian site and future buildings. Second, a partnership development, capital, and operation for joint use of a fully modernized Fabian with attendant wraparound services. Third, identification and outline of any agreements permitting the use of facilities by each other's institutions. And finally, an initial development agreement that will be executed prior to commencement of schematic design for the Fabian site. including an outline of subsequent disposition and development agreement, a DDA, terms for the completion of capital projects identified in Phase 1 of the Fabian Master Plan. So the timing of this MOU would come before the board's consideration in September. Upon adoption of the MOU, Concordia and the district will begin the scope of work identified in the MOU as soon as possible after a voter approval of the district capital budgeting program. Master planning is anticipated to be a 12-month effort. Capital partnership development would be completed within 3 to 5 years. I would now like to have Gary Withers say a few words about the partnership and MOU.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. Today was a very typical day. Started the day with a meeting with the president of United Way, Keith Tomajan, and Ken Thrasher, who is civic leader, known to all of you. And among the topics we talked about, Fabian, of course. We talked about the need for wraparound services at opportunities like Fabian. And Keith and Ken kind of looked me in the eye and they said, well, what's really going to be the bottom line there? And I thought for a minute, what's the bottom line from a Concordia student's perspective? And the bottom line for us would be, wouldn't it be wonderful if every Concordia student had an opportunity to serve as a mentor, working with a student from Fabian? And that's one of our goals. And then about midday, had another meeting, and we're talking about another opportunity with Fabian, a programmatic opportunity. September 7th, and then in October, we're going to do a number of events around a little bit of joint fundraising for mosquito nets for young people in Africa. And children from Fabian are going to be able to come over and participate as spectators on September 7th, watching our number 2 ranked women's soccer team play against a much lesser ranked team from California. And then in October, we're going to do a little bit of kids will have a chance to come out on the field and shoot some goals and earn a few bucks to raise money for mosquito nets. And then, of course, at the end of the day, on campus, we're getting a report that is talking about the public perception of Concordia University. And I didn't put this question in here, but somebody put a question in there, and the question was, so if the Fabian-Concordia partnership matures beyond programming, even into the capital arena, will that help Concordia University deliver on its promise to be a really key, premier community partner? 75% of the people surveyed said absolutely, with the highest marks. And that's what our partnership is about. Denny Stecklin, who's behind me here, is our Chief Financial Officer, was thinking about this earlier today, and he had a response that he wanted me to share as well, and it's the same response that the Dean, the President, and I, and we all share, and that is because we prepare so many teachers, we have over 1,000 students in our teacher preparation program, probably close to 1,500. Our goal is to be able to exercise this programmatic and capital partnership in a way where we're truly preparing teachers who are the best prepared to be able to help young people realize their full potential, to become one of the premier colleges of education in the entire country. And having the proximity that this partnership opportunity presents from a capital standpoint is singular and unique. In fact, in a little bit of research, we found maybe one other similar sort of partnership in the entire country. And we think it bodes extraordinarily well, not only for the 2,000 to 3,000 Concordia students, but to, and in particular, the 700 to 800 Fabian students who will be at a new facility. So we're thrilled about the opportunity. We obviously talk about it all the time, and Fabian is always on our agenda at Concordia University. So thank you very much for your time and your support of this.
Thank you, Paul. Comments, questions?
I mean, I'd be happy to comment. I just want to thank you and Concordia again. As I was looking through the attachments and the material on this particular partnership and MOU, I love the fact that what we are talking about is instructional space for student teaching. We're talking about space to provide wraparound services for district students and parents. And we're talking about space for Concordia's College of Education, including faculty offices, conference rooms, classrooms, and a joint partnership that has Concordia contributing financially to this project also, as well as all of the unbelievable community support that you've been providing all the way along. So it's an amazing partnership, and I think it's one of the reasons that we were really interested in having Fabian as part of this very first bond package, is that it gives us an opportunity to really demonstrate to our community what we're talking about when we talk about partnerships. And I can't thank you enough for your engagement for the last year and a half with us throughout the process. It's so exciting to think about what can be. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you both again. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for. At least a tremendous historical moment, at least for our school district. And that is the referral of a ballot measure, and Superintendent Smith will introduce this next item.
And I'll ask CJ Sylvester and Jim Owens. CJ is our Chief Operating Officer, and Jim Owens directs our Office of School Modernization to come up and formally present this. And as Co-Chair Gonzalez has inferred, this is the culmination of a long process that has involved a lot of people to be at the moment we are at right now, starting with listening sessions that began last May and ran through into the fall, where we listened to many Portland Public School stakeholders, then going into our Long-Range Facilities Advisory Committee, who actually brought forward a long-range facilities plan that's a 10-year vision of where we're going with our facilities for our district, then to a bond development committee, and then much conversation amongst this group about and back and forth with the public about what a package might look like and when was the right time to bring it to tonight, where I turn it over to the two of you to bring us the final chapter.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith, and I think I will shorten my comments based on the timeline that you've just run us through. This evening, staff is seeking the board authorization to place a school capital construction bond measure on the November 6th ballot. We've collectively been working towards this evening's action since May 2011. As Superintendent Smith indicated, following the failure of ballot measure 26-121 in May of 2011, the board and the superintendent went out and in depth for 6 months and did a series of listening sessions. Heard what the community had to say, both in favor of what had been done and what had not been done correctly. Subsequent to that, we went into a long-range facility planning process. This long-range facility plan committee was 36 members strong, and themes emerged through identification of goals and guiding principles. One of those was that capital bonds are absolutely required in order for us to be able to move forward and do the kinds of renovations to our schools that are necessary in order to provide an adequate educational environment. People are interested in having a bold vision, particularly for the first phase, and they want to use strategic use of the money so that most of any bond moving forward is going towards major renovation or full modernization or replacement, and then some money is going towards highest and most urgent facility needs. They're interested in us building robust program capacities at each site and pursuing partnerships, much like the Concordia one that was just under conversation here this evening. Everyone agreed that schools should be safe, healthy, and accessible to all. Subsequent to the Long-Range Facilities Planning Committee and their work effort, which was adopted by the board, there was a 22-member bond development committee. They considered a variety of criteria, which gives you a variety of different packages to consider for any bond proposal. That material was then taken out for a series of public input sessions in May. And from those public input sessions, we learned that there was strong support for the November 2012 ballot, that seismic issues and a focus on high schools were relevant, that there was concern over the cost of the prior bond measure and it needed to be an issue for us as we moved forward. And there was, again, an interest in the educational vision. The board preferred school construction bond proposal that's before you this evening in ballot measure and explanatory statement language responds to the issue of price sensitivity with an estimated tax rate of $1.10 per $1,000 in assessed value. This provides a median assessed tax rate estimated at $165. And it provides us with an 8-year, $482 million capital construction bond. It also highlights the vision of High Schools First. The two primary criteria that you had us use were high seismic risk and the need for major access upgrades. Secondary criteria after the application of those two were high enrollment, which netted us the high schools of Grant and Franklin, and high poverty, which gave us the high schools of Roosevelt and Franklin. So the three high schools, Grant, Franklin, and Roosevelt, are all included in this first one. Partnership was another high priority, and as you've just heard, the partnership with Concordia University and the district regarding the Fabian pre-K-8 site is a demonstration of what can be accomplished when a community comes together. Starting at the high schools was a natural extension of the work that the board had previously done regarding high school redesign. The preferred school construction bond has a balance between schools identified for full modernization while still ensuring that focused urgent facility needs are accomplished. In particular, that's high priority roof replacements, seismic strengthening, and accessibility upgrades. And these physical facility improvements provide a geographic balance across the district of work that's being accomplished. So the summary on this of the $482 million bond proposal is that $5 million will be dedicated to educational facility improvements to improve grades 6 through 8 science classrooms. That $69.5 million is dedicated to seismic strengthening, replacing and seismically bracing roofs, doing additional roof work, and improving accessibility to educational programs. That $278 million will be spent on full modernizations of Grant, Franklin, and Roosevelt high schools and replacement of Fabian. That $45 million will go towards debt repayment. We'll be acquiring Rosa Parks K-8, and there'll be a little bit of discussion about that later tonight, and then the actual acquisition will take place in late October or early November. We've set aside money under program costs for required reserves, materials and labor cost escalation, and all of those kinds of additional things that are necessary in order to complete the bond program effectively. For that total bond program of $482 million. And when we have sat and had these conversations with the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee, with the Bond Development Committee, and internally, we've talked about what a robust program this is, how much work this is going to be, and what the 30-year effort is going to look like. So we pulled a couple of photos about how people 100 years ago were accomplishing what we're talking about now. And fine grading of sites, even now, is considered to be a bit of an art form. But if you look at how they were having to do it, 100 years ago with the equivalent of plowshares, and this accomplished for us eventually the Franklin High School we know today. And this is Franklin High School under construction, the gymnasium over on the right-hand side. So this was being accomplished in 1915 and 1960 with the tools and materials that were available at that time and the amount of effort that it took to raise that building. And so what we're undertaking today, quite frankly, looks pretty easy in comparison because we have different tools, we have different methods, we have different materials. And so it's just to give us a sense of what our forefathers were accomplished on our behalf and what we're undertaking now on behalf of the students of our future.
Thank you both. Are there any quick questions? I know we heard this presentation before many other times, so I don't want to get into rehashing old questions that we already have, so I'd rather go into introducing the resolution. So if we don't have any, the board will now consider Resolution 4640, calling a measure election to submit to the electors of the district the question of authorizing $482 million of general obligation bonds and providing for related matters. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Director Regan moves and Director Knoll seconds. The motion to adopt Resolution 4640. Ms. Houston, is there any citizen comment on Resolution 4640?
Yes, we have 6 signed up. The first two, Taylor Merrow and Frank Holman.
Hi again. How y'all doing? Good evening. Thanks for listening tonight. So, first, I'd like to say I'm a little bit concerned because I did email I emailed the superintendent and I also emailed my board members and haven't heard back from them. So, if you need to contact me, my email is tamarrow@hotmail.com. Next, I believe that most of you remember my position concerning the proposed measure. As I stated before, I am not opposed to an increase in my taxes. I am not a cheap person. What I am opposed to is increased inequity that this bond measure will create. I recently returned from a visit with my family back in Princeton, New Jersey, and it only reinforced my concerns for my children's education. Princeton Regional Schools, which is where I graduated, which was the #1 high school in the state, top 5 in the nation, spends $17,000 per student each year. My 2 nieces will get one of the best public educations in the nation. One of my best friends growing up in high school, a kid from my Boy Scout troop, he is a teacher at Pennington Prep School in Princeton, New Jersey, one of the most elite prep schools in the nation. This year, his son goes to 6th grade. He's turning 11. My daughter will be entering 6th grade. He gets to go to Pennington Prep. My daughter gets to be stuck in a public school system that ranks at the very bottom of the nation. Each year, my nieces receive new up-to-date textbooks. They have state-of-the-art classrooms, state-of-the-art science labs, state-of-the-art facilities. While my kids get to deal with second-rate facilities, second-rate science rooms, second-rate classrooms, and my kids will be stuck doing less and getting less than what their cousins will. However, so yes, Portland does. This is what I went out there. I told them Portland has great parks, right? We have great bike roads, right? But what we lack is schools. We lack a good public school district that will drive this state and, more importantly, this city forward. Your proposed bond measure does nothing to increase student success, does nothing to increase access, does nothing to increase quality. What this measure will do is fix the relatively affluent neighborhoods and the good performing schools at PPS and leave my children's future at Madison High School lagging behind. Also, once you decide to fix these priority schools, my property value would be less than the property value of the schools that you're proposing that are from relatively affluent neighborhoods. You know, my daughter went to Alameda. I know what these neighborhoods are like. Right? You're going to fix these schools. The next schools you're going to fix are going to be Benson, Lincoln, and Cleveland. And then Madison, you're expecting in 8 years, is going to be voted for by people who already had their high schools fixed. Can you tell me, how will my 11-year-old, how will my 6-year-old benefit from me paying taxes to subsidize people who are relatively affluent, have good property values and stable property values? Explain to me this, and I might consider it. But so far, no one has been able to say how my children will directly benefit. By the time my 11-year-old sees anything, if a bond measure comes up, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for this time.
If
for
you can
public
state your
comment.
name for the record, please, and spell your last
My name
name.
is Frank Holman, and that is spelled Holman. My address is 2327 Northeast 33rd, Portland 97212. I have worn many hats in this community. However, I am representing tonight all those octogenarians who recall when the community put its money where its mouth was and supported public schools. I am also representing here retired seniors who have been utterly unhappy with the lack of investment over the past few decades in taking care of our public buildings. I recall when we had one of the best school districts in this country. Our budgets always made sense and included maintaining these buildings, and right now we have a huge backlog of deferred maintenance. So we have a golden opportunity here for reinvestment in our kids' education by caring for the community assets we all use. People with school-age kids and people without school-age kids use these buildings. From the Portland Public School website, I read that over 4,000 non-school related events are held in these community buildings every year. So they are heavily used and need to be cared for. We need to show our kids that they really matter. We need to commit to sending them to safe and enlivening school buildings to learn, grow, and lead. We need a city that is not just a place to bike, golf, hike, eat, and recycle our stuff, but a city that produces students who are thriving in their learning environment. We need to provide a great learning environment that produces graduates for which businesses will compete. Refer this bond. It is the first step to a brighter future for us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mike Rosen and Scott Bailey.
I get 6 minutes again?
No. You still know the rules, right?
So
That's why I didn't repeat him tonight, by the way. I figured I seen him before, I seen you before, seen other people. There's no need to remind you, right?
My name is Scott Bailey. Thank you, board members, superintendent, legal counsel, and our newest board member. Welcome. Thanks for listening to me tonight. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. These are trying times. It's hard to stay positive sometimes, but this bond is a real positive step forward that the community can take. It's something we can build on. It's the first step. 30 years of work, that's the hole we're in. It's the first step forward to do good things for kids. It's shameful to me that my neighborhood high school has buildings, has a quarter of the classrooms aren't accessible. This bond will fix that. And the same kind of thing is true at Franklin and at Roosevelt. And there are other schools that need that as well. I've been in those, quote, science labs for middle grade kids that are just a regular classroom with a sink. Those aren't really science labs. This bond will fix that. I worry, and a lot of people worry, about the big earthquake that's out there. This bond will be a first step in addressing that, with more that we will need to do in the future. And I could go on, but I'll just leave it there and say thank you. This is a good first step to take. It's something we can build on positively to build on with the school district. Thanks.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have Herman Green and Ethan Jewett.
All right, my name is Herman Green, last name spelled Greene. My address is 8515 North Drummond, Portland, 97217. And I came out here this night just really to tell you guys thank you for the passing of this measure in advance. What it's going to do for Roosevelt High School is ensure that it's around for a while. Roosevelt High School is an amazing school and an amazing community. It's got a lot of history. And the passing of this bond measure is going to ensure that it continues to provide a safe place where our kids can be educated, where our kids can grow up in a diverse culture with everyone around you and feel like this is mine. I want to say thank you for showing the community that you're not just talking about you care about the community, but you're showing them that you care by investing in what's dear to them. The high school is a central location where all the community from St. John's really just comes together, and they walk and they talk and they get caught up on what's going on. And by you passing this bond, you ensure that for the next generation, for my daughter who's going to Roosevelt High School now, and for my youngest daughter who's 10 years old who will be going to high school, Roosevelt High School, when she gets older, you ensure that she'll have that same history, that same passion, that same love, that same place that she can call her own. And you tell the St. John's community and the rest of Portland that we're not just talking about we care. We're showing you that we care with our dollars, because these are hard times right now. And we can all find reasons as to why we shouldn't do something, and where, the money is needed more here and the money is needed more there. And by you taking this to say, all that's going on, but we care about these schools. No one school is greater than the other, but we're basing it on the needs of the school and the needs of the community, and we're going to invest here, and this is a first step. I thank you for that.
My name is Ethan Jewett. I'm a Woodlawn resident and in the Fabian district. And so the two things that I'd like to say are, one, that I'm extremely excited about the partnership with Concordia and the resultant inclusion of Fabian on the bond measure. I'm also a neighborhood emergency team leader with the City of Portland's program and the Neighborhood Emergency Team program. And I have been a volunteer for about a decade. And so as a student of the Sichuan earthquake, where a huge slice of school-aged children were tragically killed in their subduction zone earthquake in buildings that were seismically unsound, and then watching in Japan as almost no students were actually killed in the actual earthquake because of their superior seismic construction. I'm extremely excited to see the work begin to reinforce and improve and replace buildings that are dangerous to our children. Obviously, it's great to sort of be on the short list, and I hope that you will all take that job very, very seriously, because it's not a question of if. It could not be in our lifetimes, but seeing the pictures of Franklin in 1916 remind me that, you know, we did not know that there were going to be these huge earthquakes. These buildings were not constructed to withstand them, and we can't let our current building inventory sit around for another century and roll the dice every day. So that's all I have to say. Thank you all.
Thank you. Is that? Thank you. So we're now going to turn to a brief discussion of the board. You know, of course, you know, I gotta say this. I think, you know, we can't necessarily address, you know, every concern that we have heard. I mean, and there are some that have been expressed by folks in the past. There's also, I think, things that have been expressed in regards to the hopes that we all have and people in the community have. I think, as mentioned by Mr. Sylvester, you know, that there is a history of work that has been done. People came together over 100 years ago to try to build the schools, and in essence, it was a leap of faith for future generations. My own experience, I think, within the district, and having been involved in organizing work with the district for the past 24 years, or 25 now, as a parent and now as a grandparent, many of the things that I worked on in hoping for change within the district were not necessarily resulted in immediate benefits for my children, as I think many parents, you know, that continue to organize trying to improve the educational system have not seen those results. It doesn't mean that, you know, we don't encourage people to continue to get involved to try to get the direct benefit for students, but you know, in putting forth this bond for the public, we are also conscious of the fact that the majority of the people here in Portland do not have children in Portland public schools. So it is, I think, that partnership that we are asking for all of us to build and to commit to building a better future for all our students, not the ones that are present, the only ones that are currently attending our schools, but for future generations to come. So I'm very, I think, hopeful in this process and the results of that in regards to what it is, I think, a signal to an investment for future generation and a partnership, I think, for all the individuals, I think, that are part of the electorate and other people that are not necessarily voting on this measure, but that we encourage to support our students at all levels. So I'm not sure, you know, if other of my colleagues want to say a few words in regards to this.
I guess I'll just say a couple things that what I've appreciated through this process. I mean, immediately after my election to the board, I was in a lot of listening sessions with folks, trying to figure out what the feedback was from the last bond. And while it was really disappointing for me personally to have the last bond not get passed. It really provided us an opportunity to come back to our community and say, what did we miss, and really what is our vision? And so what I appreciate about this bond, even as I heard testimony this evening, I talk about making sure that we're trying to invest in high poverty schools. As you heard C.J. Sylvester talk about, that was one of our priorities to look at. And so we have schools like Fabian and Roosevelt in there. We've talked about, I've heard a lot about people saying our middle school science curriculum, you promised when you moved to K-8s or whatever. There are varying versions of that, that's why I say whatever. And so we heard that, and so we're investing in access to those quality programs with this. We're doing seismic. People are very concerned, and I know there's some division. Some people say, it's not a good investment when you look at return of investment, but our return on investment is safe kids that are going to be able to come home with their kids if that earthquake ever hits. And that helps me sleep at night, because my first job, I feel like as a member of this community, is to keep your kids safe when you send them to us. The number of schools, it's going to be over 40 or 50 different schools that get that seismic upgrade. They get those new roofs, the science labs. It's a well-constructed bond in the sense that we were able to include the high schools as this visionary, as we realize that they're going to have this big impact on student achievement, while also doing a lot of major work at the other schools without spreading it so thin that it feels disingenuous, or that it's just a little bit to give everybody something, for whether it's for politics or for whatever it is. We set our criteria and we moved to it, and it was criteria based on that year of input from our community. So I'm hopeful, as Martine just mentioned. I hope our community feels that we've come back and that this is in partnership, and I'm looking forward to November.
So maybe I'll just piggyback on that and just agree with everything that's been said, or just to highlight that just the piece about the size of the package that was mentioned before, but just to highlight that again, that last time we went, the bond package we put forth to the voters was $2 per thousand of assessed value. We had that very heartbreaking, very narrow loss. And so we really, one of the key pieces we heard in all that feedback was that it was too big, too much, for a variety of reasons, the economy, obviously, and also our property tax bills in particular here in Portland. So I just want to reflect that the package is significantly lower, as CJ pointed out. We came up with $1.10 per thousand as assessed value. We were really trying to balance this huge backlog of need, the fact that every child deserves this in Portland and needs it, and we could go into just about every school in this city and make a really good case that this school needs to be rebuilt. But balancing that huge need with the fact that we do have limited resources, it is still a tough economy. It's hard for folks to dig that deep. So we tried to find a balance. We came up with $1.10 per thousand of assessed value, really as a first step, again, as we're all saying, for that long-range plan where we will be able to do the full renovation or rebuild of every single school in the city for future generations. And I really, I do hope that we're thinking, whether we have kids in school or not, and I really appreciate everyone who came and testified tonight, that this really is about the city as a whole, and our economy just on one level, and really what kind of place we're going to be to attract families, and how we're going to survive as a city if we don't have vibrant, safe schools for our kids. So I'm hoping that folks are thinking beyond their immediate neighborhood, their immediate family, and really thinking in terms of themselves as citizens of this city, and pulling in together for what Portland needs to be and what we can be. So that's my hope, and I'm really excited by this package being one that's a good compromise and really carefully crafted, and I'm excited to really work with the community and the teachers and the students in figuring out how those new spaces for teaching and learning are going to benefit us all.
Well, let me talk a little bit more about some of the other things that this bond will do for the city. It will help build our local economy in many, many ways. Great schools alone cannot make a city great, but all great schools, or all great cities have great schools. And in Portland, we are particularly fortunate because 82% of our students, or our citizens, our children, attend Portland Public Schools. And so our schools serve a very large portion of our citizenry. The timing is particularly great on this because our economy is turning, and we look forward to hoping that it will provide more jobs for our community and our city. Portland is known for many, many things. We're known for climate, recreational activities, sustainability, innovation, coffee, beer, all those kinds of things. But what's most important for us is that we're known for strong schools. And businesses come and locate in Portland because of all of the things that we have. But one thing that will keep a company from coming to Portland is if we did not have strong schools. So it's very, very important that we continue to keep our schools strong, and this bond will help us do that. Tonight was also mentioned about property values. It's true, our property values when our schools are improved, our property values do increase. It's not a warm and fuzzy thing to talk about, but it's a fact, and it's important to the city that we continue to have rising property values in our city. And finally, from a business perspective, another business perspective, strong schools help provide a strong workforce for our city, and we need that both for our city and to, again, attract other businesses to Portland because we have that strong workforce that's been built by our very strong schools. So I am very excited about the referral of this bond and look forward to working very hard for it over the next several months to make sure that it passes, and I hope that all of you will join us in that effort.
Yeah, as a student in Portland Public Schools, I know that this is something that we can't keep putting off, that not only are we planning for the future with seismic protection from earthquakes and future things like that, daily at schools, the school environment is not a place where you want to be. It is so chaotic. Hallways are so crowded. Classrooms are with 35, 40 kids in a small science lab where you only have 2 sinks that are working. This is something that we need to deal with now. We can't have our students be getting behind just because we don't have the correct equipment. We don't have a nice learning environment. Students don't want to come to school. So this is something that I'm totally in support of, that students see it every day, and I encourage everyone to go look at all of our schools because they are really in need of help.
I think I want to jump in here and follow up on some of what people are saying, because we do know we have a big backlog of improvements we need to make to our schools. And so this is just the start of a 30-year program that we hope the voters will support us over a long period of time in this investment in our schools. And one of the things I'm pleased about in this resolution is the superintendent will develop the charter for our Citizen Oversight Committee. So we'll have an independent group that will look at the spending that happens in this bond to assure that the dollars are wisely spent, that they're spent on what we're saying we have committed to our community that we will spend the money on. And so I'm excited about that, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that we'll have some more discussion about that, perhaps in a work session coming up, about what that charter will be exactly and the makeup of that committee. Because I think it's important to taxpayers and voters that they know that we'll have an independent citizens oversight on this bond.
I appreciate the comments of my colleagues, and I would say I agree with everything folks have said tonight. I also appreciate the comments of the citizens who have testified this evening and in prior meetings for a while now. One tonight I think is worth repeating, and that was Mr. Holman's comment about the use of our space by community organizations and other outside events. I think his number was around 4,500 events, non-school related events in our facilities. We are truly, it's a fantastic statistic and number, I think, because we are the most widely used public buildings in the city. And I think whether we like to deny it or not, our schools are community centers. And they're built not only to educate, but the students that are there on a daily basis, but also to be available for our community. And I think a bond like this really says that we're taking the responsibility to make sure that those facilities are both safe and I think much more importantly accessible for our community. So I'm in support of this bond. Absolutely.
I wanted to make a comment that hasn't been brought up, which is about the campaign itself being different. But I first wanted to address, there was Ethan Jewett. I haven't met you before, but it was interesting when you were talking about the neighborhood emergency training that you've done through the city of Portland, because when I moved to Oregon 19 years ago, we had just lived through the San Francisco earthquake. And one of the very first things I did was I signed up for the city's neighborhood emergency training, and so I went through that as well. And one of the things that was the most shocking about it is that they spent an enormous amount of time on triage. Who do you save, who don't you save, because of the destruction that could actually happen. So one of the things that gives me great comfort in this, and I know we've already talked about it a little bit, is the seismic improvements, because hopefully over time, over this 30-year process, we can assure parents that if and when the big earthquake hits, hopefully our children and our teachers or staff will be able to safely exit out of the buildings. That's certainly the goal. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I hadn't thought about the fact that I had done that way back when. One of the things that I wanted to talk about just a little bit was the campaign itself, because one of the things I think that we've all noticed feels really different this time is I think people were really, parents in particular, but a lot of people in the community were really shocked that we lost the last time. And literally, if like 300 people had switched their votes, we would have been there. But I think that maybe we got too comfortable with the idea that, of course, we're always going to support education, and we did. We passed the levy. It was amazing, and we came really close. But we've had such incredible community engagement since the day after the bond. And what I'm really excited about is the fact that we have a really different feeling for the campaign itself. The campaign staff that we're using this time is completely different than staff that we've used in the past. And I think they understand really well that this package that we have was created by our community for our community, and that they are committed to running a grassroots campaign to ensure that it is passed by our community. So it just has a good feel to it. I mean, everywhere you go, you're hearing a buzz, which is exciting. I think in some ways the last campaign took a more technical approach to how do you pass a bond. Where are the votes? What precincts should we be focused in? And I think this time we're all taking the approach of what is it that this bond is going to do for all of our children. And in fact, we just had a meeting, many of us attended a meeting this week with representatives of communities of color, and they were reminding us that nearly 50% of our children are children of color, minority children, and this is an opportunity for all of us to engage together to support Portland's kids. I'm also excited that I believe that more than anything else, this campaign is going to reflect Portland Public Schools' values. And I think that's really important. I think we lost sight of that a little bit during the last campaign. I think that we know that as we recreate these buildings, we are going to provide some amazing new opportunities for great teaching and learning to happen. Right now, when you talk to teachers, when you talk to staff people, you often hear that our buildings hinder teaching and learning. And I think what we are going to do is to start a process over the next 30 years where our buildings will facilitate teaching and learning, and that's exactly what we want in our buildings. So we're going to have safe environments that facilitate great teaching and learning. So really excited about it. So I'm a yes.
Any more
You know, I will just add
Superintendent?
a very simple thank you to people who have been part of this conversation over the last year and number of months, just because people have gone in very deeply and gotten their arms around complexity of issues and understanding of the inner workings of our buildings, and also just come forward with what their questions are and their critiques, and all with leaning in and saying, how do we make this successful, and how does this community get our arms around what it is we need to do to create the buildings we want for our students for the future. And people have showed up in all sorts of ways, and it's been people from all around Portland, and you're hearing a lot of the conversation about ownership and feeling like this really reflects the values of Portland, and it really feels like it does. I can't tell you just how many people have engaged in all sorts of ways in a way that makes it feel just really strong going forward at this moment. So thank you to everybody who's figured out how to show up and get your voice in this, be it an idea or a question or expertise that you've offered. It's just mattered in terms of coming up with something that I think we can be really proud of as a district and as a city. So thank you.
Okay. So the board will now vote on resolution 4640. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Resolution 4640 is approved by a vote of 7-0, with Student Representative Garcia voting.
Yes.
Thank you. Not that this measure has been referred to the ballot, I wanted to share with the public some key dates for the November election. I also wanted to make an additional statement. You know, we are all calling on all Portlanders to come together to invest in our schools, to help us rebuild our schools. And in the words of Director Knowles in another meeting, we do this, I think, particularly for those of us that are older, to invest in the younger generations so that they can become more productive members of society. Because in the end, will all benefit from that happening. So wanted to, again, kind of restate that I think that has been articulated before, because in the end, we know we need to build better communities. So a couple of things I'm going to mention in regards to the elections themselves in regards to November. The vote being November 6th, of course. The ballots being available at the elections office starting September 24th. Voter registration deadline, everybody we're urging everybody to register to vote. If you're not already registered, you have to do that by October 16th. Ballots will be mailed to all of us that are registered to vote on October 19th. And as Director Reagan mentioned, there is a campaign committee that is working. Our board liaisons for that work is Director Sargent, Director Knowles, and Director Regan. And I'm asking Director Regan to share some of those kind of campaign dates that are coming up.
Well, one date in particular for people to be aware of is this Thursday. There's actually going to be an open house at the new campaign office, which is at 1725 Northeast Sandy. 1785 Northeast Sandy. Our campaign manager's back there and just freaked out. 1785 Northeast Sandy. And we're going to be doing a more formal and bigger campaign kickoff in September. But for folks who are wanting to get engaged early, wanting to see our campaign office, we really encourage you to come. The office opening is actually going to be, the whole agenda has been set by students. We're going to have some student music. And I think it would be just great fun. So that'll be from 5:30 to 7:30. So that would be the first one. And I think as we go along with our board meetings throughout the fall, we can be announcing others as we go. So thank you. And there's our Portland, Our Schools has a Facebook page and a website, and you can get lots and lots of information there as we go as well.
Again, election day, November 6th. Thanks everyone that is involved. Thanks everybody that that brought us to this point, particular staff, the volunteers, and all of you that are out there really waiting to participate in a great campaign. So we move on now to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Smith.
Yes, and I think there's a slide that's coming up here that's showing it. Okay, so our milestones framework with which you are all familiar, it's what we've been using to measure student success as they move through our system over the last, I think, 4 years at this point, where we've set targets for ourselves for 5-point gain for students overall, and then a 5-point narrowing of the achievement gap. And I'm showing this to you right now because we are going to be engaged in the next month and a half at trying to align our Portland Public Schools milestones with the measures that are being outlined by Cradle to Career. So our partnership across all of Multnomah County, which is now working, that has some variation on a theme relationship to what our milestones are, but with some differences that will require us to do some aligning. And then the other one is our state achievement compacts, which we will begin our process of setting targets for success each year in our compact with the state. And all of these are just a little bit of a variation on a theme with a little bit of difference, enough that we need to align them. So on October 15th at that work session, we'll be having the conversation about that alignment. And then on October 29th at our board meeting, including both our updated data for this year, so our updated is particularly 10th grade, and then the results of our appeal on our graduation rate from last year, which went up significantly from the one that we set our original milestone target or achievement compact target on. We'll be voting on our achievement compact targets October 29th, and then resetting our own milestone targets for the year. So just letting you know that that's coming. The other thing is our state assessment cut scores have also changed, particularly on the 3rd grade milestone. So it will require, it's now meets or exceeds, and our milestone has been exceeds. The new meets is the equivalent of our old exceeds, so it will now be meets or exceeds. So we've got some of those kind of adjustments to make. So telling you that is in our future. And then the bulk of what I wanted to talk to you about is really the supports that have been going on this summer to both prepare kids to get ready to enter school and also to do the shoring up at key transition points as they're getting ready to start the school year. So we have had, and all of this conversation is in the context of our strategic framework. And we have a new graphic for you because it's the same words, but a new graphic because people thought the old one was tough to read. So I'm running a new graphic by you. And then I'll move you along to our early kindergarten transition program, which was for 75 incoming kindergarten students at Woodmere and Harrison Park. And these kids all had the opportunity to practice kindergarten for 3 weeks with their kindergarten teachers, and their parents or caregivers had the opportunity to participate in twice-a-week meetings to learn how to support their kids' long-term education and to connect with school. So here you've got some of our students from the early kindergarten transition program. And students, the curriculum revolved around three books as well as math concepts. So that's what parents and students were engaged in. So they're practicing kindergarten. We also had a Leap into 9th grade summer program that was at 5 of our high school campuses for 4 weeks in July. We had nearly 300 students who participated who are getting ready to attend Benson, Franklin, Jefferson, Madison, or Roosevelt. And they had both morning classes focused on writing skills as well as learning critical learn-to-study skills and transition skills, preparing themselves to enter school and also to get familiar with their own campuses before they're actually entering as students, which has been hugely successful for incoming 9th graders, feeling like they've got lay of the land and know how it works before they actually enter in the 9th grade. Most of these students will earn 0.5 elective credit for their work in the summer program. And we also had partnerships with Step Up and SEI to do some social emotional skill building and goal setting and things like that to prepare themselves for 9th grade. At Roosevelt, for their Leap into 9th grade program, Joan London from the American Milestones program did a PBS documentary on Roosevelt and filmed students using iPads to do research on city officials. They interviewed Police Chief Mike Reese, who's a Roosevelt graduate, via teleconference on a Mondo pad, which you see in these. It's a giant iPad. There you go, where they're interviewing Chief Reese. And that giant iPad was donated by Portland-based InFocus for Roosevelt, which now everybody says, so do you have a Mondo pad? We have one at Roosevelt. So it's like became really exciting really quickly. A Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission grant paid for the iPads, which all students are going to be using this fall at Roosevelt. We started last year with teachers having the iPads, and this fall all of our students will have them. And that Milestones documentary will air this fall on PBS, so we'll keep you posted of when that actually goes on air. We also had a Gear Up summer program with 175 incoming 7th and 8th graders. They were meeting out at the Marshall campus. And actually had high school mentors from their feeder high school working with them. They were awesome. We got to visit with some of those students and their mentors, and they were having a great time and really getting excited about school. They did worked with the Oregon Writing Project with Linda Christensen, working with both the teachers and the students, and looked at jobs that matter with a social justice theme, and just a lot of energy going on at that campus, which was great. And then finally, we had migrant families who got to expand their knowledge through a summer school program for more than 100 elementary school-aged migrant students and their families, with partners from Oregon State University and Portland Community College, and West Sylvan Middle School students who did from the Spanish Immersion Program, who continued a years-long tradition of working in that summer program. So that was also really exciting. And then in addition to those, we did our Benson Summer Scholars and did priority for students who were not meeting the 10th grade milestone. And we'll give you numbers on that one as soon as we have them. So, but with that program ends up hitting capacity every year. So we have huge demand for summer scholars. Oh, here we go. Oh, and you know what they're doing? Closing the gap. Woo!
Closing the gap.
They were closing the gap. That is what they were doing. We always do the raise the bar and close the gap. That's what the kids were doing for you there. So, another piece of great news for us was you hear every year about our Portland PTA clothes closet. This year, Sharon May Chang, who has been the person who has been the just heart and soul of the clothes closet, and every year was honored in Washington, D.C. as one of 12 champions of change from across the country. And so, and we'll give you a little more coverage of that honoring of her, but we are really excited that she was called out for her work with the PTA Clothes Closet. And every year, there we go, honored as the champion of change. So, yeah, it was just really exciting. And she's done such great work, and that is all volunteer. And each year actually serves more and more students as they become aware of it. They're able to shop a couple times a year, and it's a fabulous program. So, and contributions from lots of companies in the community, Nike, Columbia Sportswear, Ross, Adidas, Old Navy, and it's wonderful. Back to school clothes opportunity for our kids. So, Yahoo, Sharon. Our boiler burner conversion project was a big piece of facilities work that went on this summer, and this one you all have heard about, but I will just tell you a little bit of an update, which is we're converting boilers at 47 sites, 88 boilers, and converting from fuel oil to natural gas. And when these are completed, the savings in fuel costs will be nearly $2 million a year. So it's a huge project with huge outcomes and huge impact on our operating budget. The work has started at 33 schools or 66 boilers. We've had 6 chimneys that have been lowered so far, and chimney lowering for 8 more schools will start this week. The first school scheduled to be completed is Da Vinci, which will be done at the end of September, and then all 33 schools are scheduled to be heated by natural gas by mid-October. So we are really excited about that. Big difference. A lot of conversation about those boilers. So. Our Great Fields projects also had a lot of progress over the summer. We are nearly complete with the track replacement at Roosevelt High School. nearly complete with the track replacement at Franklin High School. The track replacement is just getting underway at Madison and is also getting underway at the Marshall campus, where we have a 9-lane competitive track that will be used and is used and will continue to be used heavily for citywide competitions. So, and all of those have had great community partnership and a lot of our partners involved in making these happen and being ready for the start of the school year. And finally, the last two things I want to make you aware of. We are doing again for the second year in a row a big effort to reconnect students who have not yet showed up for school, reconnect them to Portland Public Schools, and we're asking the community and our partners that if you know a student who isn't in school and wants to come back, we have a number, one number to call, and either that student can call or you can call and we can do outreach. But the number is 503-916-3956 or email reconnect@pps.net. This was a hugely successful effort last year where we reached out to students who did not show up to school yet. And we had a large number who came back to school, a large number that we understood actually had transferred and we didn't know it yet. And if we do phone calling, and if we aren't being successful with phone calling, we're doing home visits. And we have a team of people who are dedicated to doing this. So again, we look forward to doing a big reconnect effort. And then the last is that Project Community Care, which every year we have large numbers of people in the community who show up to help us get ready to welcome kids back to school with both yard and building projects. We've got, it'll be 9 to noon this next Saturday, August 25th. It will be happening at schools across the city. You can log on to our website to see which schools. You do not need to pre-register. You can just show up, and we welcome everybody who wants to come. It's really fun. So I will say come, and it matters a lot for kids to show up and have their school feel like it's ready for them when they show up for school. So join us for Community Care Day. That's it.
Any questions?
I had one comment. I appreciated that you highlighted the early kindergarten transition program. I had occasion to visit it last year, and it was amazing. It was such a great way to welcome students who had not had preschool experience. It was everything that I think schools should be doing. So they bring them back 3 weeks. They have parents there 2 days of the week, and they have educational assistants who speak multiple languages to help students just learn the routine and get used back to that, or get used to a school setting. And what I was amazed at the time, and I'm sure they've tracked data again this year, but they had tracked data from their kindergarten year to their first grade year, the second grade year, and the students just kept improving and they outperformed their peers. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. It was just an amazing program, and what's interesting is I understand that districts across the county now have adopted a similar model to this, and it's a great example where Portland Public School innovates and tries something new because they know what's best for kids, and then to have that early adoption across, it's a great program.
Thank you for doing that kind of a call out, because I'll say, like, for any of our students, it's the same thing at 9th grade where you have the opportunity before you're actually starting with everybody there to go figure out your campus and become familiar and have it be like you're an expert before you actually start and are in the mix, has made a huge difference for students being successful once they're, they just know how it works, you know how things go, so it matters. So
thank you for your report. I'd like to take a moment, during this time to, I think we said we were going to do this again, in terms of embarrass one of our colleagues. It's actually to thank Director Knowles for serving with me during last year as co-chair. And again, I think I stated I think that how much of a pleasure it was in regards to serving with her and being able to coordinate, I think, and be able to work collaboratively. Very well in regards to the work that we needed to do as part of the leadership. So, again, wanted to thank you for that, and I believe we have like a small token of appreciation for you. So, and yeah, you can.
Thank you very
very much, Martine, and thank you to all my colleagues. I really enjoyed my 2 years in leadership. It was a real pleasure working with each and every one of you. And of course, you can't lead if there aren't people who are there to support you. And all my colleagues on the board are dedicated to our students, and I found it a real pleasure to work with each of you. So thank you very much for everything. And good luck to you guys. Beautiful flowers.
Again, thanks. It's a small token of appreciation, given that it's all, and it's a reminder to the public that it's all volunteer work. So.
And actually, I'm going to add superintendent thanks also. Just thank you for your leadership. And when you're in the board leadership roles, you also end up getting phone calls from me on like problem solving, all sorts of things that are something I need immediately. All times of day and night. So, but I will just say thank you so much for your leadership and for being a partner in working through the kinds of issues that we work through. So it was great.
Calls.
I know, I'm sure you do.
All this time I 10 o'clock forward the phone.
Oh, 10?
All right, so let's moving on. We have student testimony. Is there anybody signed up for student testimony? Thank you. Is there anybody else signed up for citizen comment? No. Great. I mean, not great. But this was expected to be a long board meeting. That's what I'm saying. It's great that we were able to shorten the time. Not that we don't want to hear from the public, but we are thankful that that they came earlier and provided testimony on the bond. So we'll now move on to board priorities for the 2012-13. And just to, I guess, remind ourselves, for the past few months, the board has met in several retreats to determine priorities and goals for the 2012-13 school year. Our priorities this year are being board champions, a bold vision that supports student success. Board leads on equity. The board provides sound fiscal oversight on district budget and assets. The board demonstrates leadership in authentically engaging the community, and the board increases its effectiveness. Each priority has been assigned a series of goals. The board's priorities are informed by the district's milestones, strategic work, and achieving compacts, which remain the district adopted goals and focus. The board's priorities would provide a framework to guide the board's work this year, and the board will revise those priorities on a yearly basis. I don't know if any of my colleagues wants to add anything just in terms of the introduction. No? So
I guess I'll just mention I'm really excited that we have this document and that we have set these goals. I think that when it allows us to remain focused. It allows us to communicate with the public exactly what our work is going to be for the next year. And I don't know, I haven't been around long enough, but I believe this is one of, if not the only time that the board has put something together that says, here is our work for the next year. And I think what that does is, again, it sets a tone of accountability to our public, which then I think sends a signal from us to staff that you set goals at the beginning of every year and then you measure their effectiveness. And that's I think, I don't know if I call it cultural transformation, but it fits into that is what we are expecting of ourselves, and that's what we would expect from the institution. So I'm really excited about this. We didn't take time wordsmithing it, getting the right words perfect in everything we're going to do, but it definitely sets out our big work for the year.
So the board will now consider Resolution 4641, adopting the Portland Public School Board of Education priorities and goals for 2012-13. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Director Morton moves and Director Atkins seconds. The motion to adopt Resolution 4641. Ms. Houston, is there a citizen comment on this? Additional board comments, board discussion?
I do just want to say quickly, I think this is really the meat of our board work. We get to see the community in this setting often, but this is, I think, for us, where the rubber meets the road. It's the stuff that holds us accountable to the work that we know we need to do and that we know that voters wanted us to do when they've elected us for these positions. So I'm excited about this. I know, we can pat ourselves on the back, but not pass tonight that this is something that's new for the board, because I think it's a matter of how we implement this. It's a matter of how we actually move forward the work, and that's what I think, that's what I'm excited about the most.
Can I ask a question? So, yeah, I totally agree, and I'm really excited to see this. I've been, it's been a hard, we've tried over the past years to have this happen, and just for a variety, when you're in the middle of doing all the work, to pause and try to organize and align everything has been challenging. So I'm really thankful. Thank you to the leadership, recent and current, that got this to this point. And I just wanted to clarify that there is a longer document that is going to be publicly available when we pass this resolution, correct? So because
That's
it's
correct.
okay, because there's a considerable lot of meat underneath just these headlines of what our priorities are. And so I just encourage folks to take a look at that and hold us accountable for that. And it'll be something that we can refer to, obviously, as we go, because it's really a working document it's guiding what the content of our meetings and work sessions is going to be. So I'm really excited about it, and just encourage us to get the word out with where it's going to live. I assume somewhere on the board website. So look forward to making it real.
Any other comments before we vote? The board will now vote on resolution 4641. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Resolution 4641 is approved by a vote of 7-0, with student representative voting.
Yes.
Okay. As Director Belial stated, I think this a great work that was captured. I want to thank my colleagues for all their efforts and engagement on all those retreats and meetings that we did to come to some collective agreement in regards to what we put forth. And again, as Director Atkins said, there is a more extensive document that we made available to the public to get an idea in regards to our more detailed thinking. So we now move on to our audit topics for the next year. I'd like to invite our auditor, Mr. Did I skip? No, right? Mr. Richard Tracy to the testimony table to talk a little bit about this topic.
Good evening. I don't have a lot to say other than the fact this is the resolution before you. I'm sure you've read it. You've talked about the topics that we have presented to you. We had a number of topics. You had a retreat. You talked them through. And the ones that you've selected are one called school improvement plans and one related to improving graduation rates. And I've started the first audit on school improvement plans. We're underway in planning that audit now. And hopefully we'll be able to start the next audit in probably 3 months or so. So that's the only thing I really have to say at this point.
Thank you. Any questions? I mean, we discussed this topic at another meeting at the retreat, and so you're right. I mean, I think that there was extensive discussion. So
I just want to highlight, maybe for the public, it's just exciting. We've had a number of audits that have been operational in nature, and those are really important too to help improve efficiencies and how we do business. But these are obviously clearly focused directly on student achievement and improvement of school. So just very excited to have you see the results.
So the board will now vote on resolution 4642. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Resolution 4642 is approved by a vote of 7-0, with student representative Garcia voting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We, looks like there is a need to take a 5-minute break. And again, I mean 5 minutes. And we'll be right back, right? So. Now back in session. Welcome back. Next on our agenda is the Portland Federation of School Professionals. At this time, the board will hear presentation from the Portland Federation of School Professionals, PFSP. I'd like to remind fellow board members that the contract between PPS and PFSP allows the union time to present on a board agenda. This presentation this evening is not a hearing. The board will be voting on a resolution later on in the evening in our business agenda. Due to confidential nature of personnel matters, the board will not discuss this matter in an open session. I'd like to invite Belinda Regan, PFSP president, to the testimony table. Thank you.
And I'd like to invite Michelle Batten, our field representative, as well, if I may.
Great. Again, welcome.
Thank you.
Let me go first?
Yes, please.
My name is Michelle Batten, B-A-T-T-E-N. Good evening, Superintendent Smith and School Board. My name is Michelle Batten, and I am the field representative for the Portland Federation of School Professionals, the union representing classified employees of Portland Public Schools. President Regan and I are here tonight to ask that you not adopt resolution number 4643 for the following reasons. We are not here to challenge the evaluation in question, but to state that discipline cannot be issued in an evaluation. Please refer to the redacted document you were given by PPS, which is a copy. In it is a copy of page 2 of the evaluation in question. The evaluating administrator described in detail an event that occurred on December 16, 2011, during a first period study hall. Our employee was never disciplined by any of his supervisors. We are grieving that discipline was inserted into the evaluation, thereby depriving our employee of his rights under our contract. A supervisor cannot relabel discipline in such a manner that it deprives an employee of their due process rights. When an employee is disciplined, it must be for just cause. They have the right to grieve the discipline. They have the right to union representation. And very important to this grievance, at the end of 2 years, the discipline may be removed from the employee's personnel file. An evaluation, however, is a permanent record that can never be removed. Using the evaluation process as a punitive tool is demoralizing. This valuable employee is a 9-year veteran of the Persian Gulf War. He served our country on 3 continents. He was an exemplary soldier and is an exemplary employee who has received multiple commendable ratings in his past and current evaluations. This is not a man who creates issues or defies authority. Today he stated to me, "I fought for my country overseas. I never thought I'd have to fight for my job and my dignity at Portland Public Schools." He cannot be here tonight as he is home with his children, all of whom are PPS students, while his wife attends school. Since 1992, this employee has been a volunteer with the Portland Police Department Youth Gang Outreach Program. He is often called upon to assist police in their gang enforcement. His knowledge, his background, and his training are a valuable asset in his day-to-day life guiding PPS students. PFSP has tried to resolve this grievance at the lowest level possible. Before advancing to a formal grievance, we suggested that if the supervisor truly believed this incident needed to be addressed, it would be more appropriate to issue a disciplinary action, thereby preserving the performance of appraisal process as a tool to assess an individual's job performance and productivity. All offers for resolution were rebuked, and we now find ourselves presenting this grievance to the school board. PFSP has been accused of filing a frivolous grievance and circumventing the contract. But I would use these same words to describe an evaluator who manipulates the evaluation process in order to insert discipline and/or reprimand. We have grave concerns that this may be a precedent-setting event, that if evaluators know they can insert discipline into an evaluation via this method and that it cannot be grieved, all employees will be deprived of their just cause rights. PFSP is not willing to let this happen to employees in our bargaining unit, especially to one who is so clearly dedicated to the students of this district and community.
And good evening, Carol and school board members. I'm Belinda Regan. I'm the president of the Portland Federation of School Professionals. After being advised last week that once again 60 of our hard-working classified employees have lost their jobs this year due to school district budget cuts, I was particularly disturbed to learn recently that the district chose to ask the law firm of Miller Nash to assist with this grievance, which in our minds is an incredible waste of precious district resources, while our former employees wait in line for meager unemployment benefits. The Federation feels that this grievance could have been and should have been resolved even prior to the filing of the grievance on April 11th, but certainly before reaching the level of tonight's hearing. In closing, I would like to remind members of the board that PFSP has made every effort over the last many years to work in close partnership with Portland Public Schools. I personally feel that this alliance has thrived and slowly flourished because of efforts made on both sides of our relationship. But now, as we face you tonight with this request not to adopt Resolution 4643, which rose out of the anger of a mid-level administrator towards a well-respected, dedicated classified employee, I believe we may be at a turning point in this burgeoning relationship. We can continue to work together to strengthen the bond between our classified employees and you as the employer, or we can slowly destroy the connections that we have all worked so tirelessly to create by losing sight of the importance of any one employee's self-worth. I truly believe that our employees have made more sacrifices for the betterment of this district than any other employee group. Please don't allow this to become another sacrifice.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Because we're running a little bit ahead of time here, we're gonna, and staff is not present for this next item, we're gonna move on to the Rosa Parks real estate transaction. Superintendent Smith?
Yep. I will ask Bob Alexander, who's the Director of Planning and Asset Management for the district, and CJ Sylvester, our Chief Operating Officer, to come on up and brief us on the Rosa Parks transaction.
Good evening and thank you. The item before you this evening is informational in nature, and Bob Alexander will describe to you exactly where we are in this process, what documents are currently down at the state for review, and when this will be coming back to the board for the actual acquisition of Rosa Parks School.
Thank you. Again, I'm Bob Alexander, Director of Planning and Asset Management. I'm here to update you on the progress of the Rosa Parks School, the so-called New Columbia Youth Center condominium. The Rosa Parks School was built in 2005 in cooperation with the Housing Authority of Portland, the New Columbia Campus Corporation, that was called N4C, HAP, now Home Forward, PPS, and the Boys and Girls Club leveraged financing using New Markets tax credits to build the school. We also are cooperatively using a Parks gymnasium as well. So the city was and is involved, but not directly in this particular transaction, to purchase the site. As part of the 2005 transaction, PPS entered into a 30-year lease option, which after 7 years required that PPS purchase its share of the property outright or continue to lease at a significantly increased cost at the choice, at the choice of the landlord. The landlord has chosen to exercise their right to require us to purchase the facility. A purchase of the property, which would also maintain the cooperative cost-sharing agreement with the Boys and Girls Club for common areas, would be the most cost-effective result. A commercial condominium agreement and companion association bylaws have been developed with participation of all the parties. However, PPS and the Boys and Girls Club are not parties to these agreements. They are developed by the owner of the property and submitted to the state for approval. The process will take 45 to 60 days, and then the transaction can take place in late October, early November. This would involve the actual purchase of the school and common buildings and the facilities and grounds. Once the documents are approved by the state, the owner can then sell the various units detailed in the agreements to potential owners and provide the condominium declaration and bylaws for the operation of the condominium. This is accomplished by the owner executing and recording or filing with the appropriate governmental authorities the following: the declaration submitting the new Columbia Youth Center condominium to condominium ownership. Second, the articles of organization. Third, the bylaws for the association. And finally, a three-dimensional plat of the condominium prepared by a surveyor, which identifies with specificity the boundaries of the various units and the common elements within the condominium. So quickly, within the condominium structure, there's two basic components. There's basically the units of ownership. A unit owner holds fee title to its unit, and the unit owner has the exclusive right to use that unit. In New Columbia condominium, there are 3 units. 1 will be owned by the Boys and Girls Club. 2 will be owned by PPS and is referred to as the ancillary school unit. That's the shared unit that has both the cafeteria and the library portion area. And third will be the part owned by PPS and is referred to in the condominium documents as the primary school unit. In addition to the units, there's some common elements. Those primary general common elements at New Columbia consist of land, sidewalks, driveways, handicap space, utilities, and systems. The condominium documents go into some detail on maintenance, utilities, control of the association, use limitations. I think in honor of the time tonight, I won't go into detail on that, but those will all be covered in the association documents. I did want to point out that there is an outdoor play area which will appertain or connect to the Boys and Girls Club side, and they will have control over that particular unit. We would be sharing in the use of that particular facility. At the point, if the Boys and Girls Club were ever to sell their unit, that would revert back to PPS for its ownership and use in the future. Again, so this would be coming before you in late October, early November for approval, and we'll be going down to the state fairly shortly for that approval process. I'd be happy to answer any questions relative to this.
Questions, comments? We look forward to, the information in the future.
I guess I don't have a question. I just want to mention it's a complex real estate deal. I mean, all of a sudden, if I were general public, the district is now into owning condominiums, and it's really just the way that the real estate structure has to happen, that it's the closest thing possible. But I just really appreciate staff's work on making sure that both the district is protected. You mentioned that if the Boys and Girls Club were to ever sell their unit, for example, we have right of first refusal at a set rate. So I just appreciate all the thought that went into to make sure our risk is minimized at the same time making it happen, because I think our public looks for these creative uses, not realizing the technical nature in order to make it happen. So it's exciting, and thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just add not a particular point about the transaction, but that we did discuss this at some length in executive session, so we have had an opportunity to have all our questions answered and have a thorough discussion about this, so we don't really need to do that tonight. We appreciate the explanation for the public, and it'll come back before us when we have to take legal action. But we did have the opportunity to have quite an extensive discussion a few weeks ago.
Thank you. So we're now going to go back to an item that we just passed, which is an update on the enrollment balancing, and I believe staff is now present.
Yes, and we'll call Judy Brennan, Director of Enrollment Transfer. And actually, Judy Brennan and Harriet Adair are the two people who are leading this process. Lorenzo Poe and myself have been present at all of the sessions so far, so we asked Lorenzo to join Judy because Harriet was not here today. And this is part of our bigger enrollment balancing process that we did a deep amount of study at the beginning of last school year, looking at where we had under enrollment and overcrowding, and looking at how we get sustainable sizes in our schools that sustain program. And we have 2 clusters we're targeting this year, the Jefferson cluster and the Cleveland cluster. So we're bringing you up to date on how those processes are moving. Judy and Lorenzo.
Thank you, and I apologize for keeping you waiting. Congratulations for moving so quickly that it caught me halfway through dinner, but at least I've had dinner, right? We've spent a fair amount of time this summer sort of planning the plan. We, as Superintendent Smith said, we expect a lot of enrollment balancing work coming through a community processes, and hopefully before you by winter. So to make sure that we're managing that well, we've been very fortunate to have a group of community members, a large group of around 30, who represent each school in the Jefferson Cluster K-8 school as well as Jefferson High School, as well as a number of individuals from community partners who have given up part of their summer to come and spend weeknight evenings with us. We'll be meeting again tomorrow night at Jefferson High School, and you're welcome to come by. The purpose of those discussions has been to sort of lay out all the complexities of what we face and get their advice on how to move forward with a process that's respectful, it's productive, and it recognizes, the history that we've had with the community and all the, shared hopes and fears that are going forward. So that's the primary update, I guess, for you, is to say that we're continuing that planning. This group will be wrapping up their work soon, and we would expect that in about a month's time we could come back to you with something that's more detailed. By that time, we'll also have a sense of where we sit across the district with new enrollment issues that may have popped up, or older ones that we've been watching to see where they are. So we have a more robust, I would say, update in that period of time. The only other thing that I would say is that Director Morton has been at each of the meetings so far. He and the board liaisons for this have been active and involved, and I would imagine they might have some comments that they wanted to share as well. What did I miss?
You covered everything. I would just add that the planning process in the committee has been one of the most robust processes I've seen in a long time. It really is giving the entire district an opportunity to have a rich discussion about how to move this forward. I think as we do this and move forward, we'll find that we'll have a more comprehensive discussion within the Jefferson cluster, and it should yield us the kind of outcomes that we're after. So it's been very enlightening, very rich, very interactive, as you would imagine. So it has been a very good process to this point.
Yeah, I think, thank you. I've had an opportunity to sit in on the last 2 meetings, and Director Adkins is going to be sitting in on the meeting tomorrow evening. But a couple of comments, I think, as you said, this is sort of the plan to plan, and I think it's incredibly important to get engagement right in this cluster. One of the comments that a community member had made, I think this last meeting, was that Portland Public Schools knows how to engage the community. Sometimes we just don't. And in fact, followed it up by saying knows how to do it well. And I think we can point to specific examples where that's happened. So this is our opportunity and our effort to do it right. I am absolutely 100% certain that the staff and that, of course, the board who are participating are eager to get this right, and I know the community members are right there with that to come up with some solutions for the cluster that make sense for the students and the community that we serve. So I'm really eager and excited about what we're doing right now, and also to sort of get to the work of that's going to happen in the next month or so during the fall. So thank you, and for those of you in the audience too who have participated, thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
So we now move on to the business agenda. The board will now consider remaining items on the business agenda, having already voted on resolutions 4639 through 4642. Ms. Houston, are there any changes to the business agenda? No. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the business agenda? Director Atkins moves. Is there a second?
Second. And
Director Morton seconds. Was that correct? Did I get the wrong person over there? No. Okay. Is there any citizen comment on the business agenda? No. Is there any discussion on the business agenda? The board will now vote on the business agenda. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please indicate by saying no. The business agenda is approved by a vote of 7-0 with Student Representative Garcia voting.
Yes.
Thank you. So we have another opportunity for citizen comment. Has anybody signed up? Thank you. So looks like we're done. So just wanted to mention that the next meeting of the board will be a study session on September 10th at 6 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.